So, hey man, this is a video for Michael Strickland. He wanted me to give him some testimony on the Benjamin Kerensa issue. So basically, barely knew who Benjamin Kerensa was. Started getting all these like emails or texts or Twitter messages or something about him. Um, it appears he had some interesting, strange, bizarre behavior, like having a Navy cruiser evacuated with a fake bomb hoax, or like a tech conference in San Francisco area. So he's like his weird past, and then it appears he's been a witness for some kind of like bomb detonation at a church, which almost starting to make it look like he works for police or he's some kind of like prefab witness. And then he is involved in this Michael Strickland gun pullout thing, and photographer sometimes. So like I've never even met him once I'm finding out all this stuff. So I just put something on my blog, piecing together all the different little factual bits, trying to like figure out who is he and like is he because there was some kind of news with the Michael Strickland thing that there was like an informer in the midst or like some kind of police employee. So I'm like, is he it? Is it Mike Blue Hair? Is it? You never know who's working for whom. So then the Yom Kippur Stampede happened. So that was like June 7th or something. I'm walking up on the block. I've gotten off the bus late, getting late to the protest. I see Mike Blue Hair like flipped out, sweating bullets. And I turn around without ever seeing. I saw Strickland, but I didn't recognize him because he used to have long hair and he cut it off. So that's how I knew him. So I wasn't processing that it was him. I see some woman and she's like, oh, somebody has a gun. And I'm kind of thinking like, is this made up? Is there really a gun? And then I'm like, oh, maybe there is. And she has a child, and I'm feeling like protective for the child. Like I don't want the child to be around guns. And so I kind of turn and walk the direction she's walking, which is up towards City Hall and the bus stop. And I think I loop around the Portland building just to like give myself some extra space from whatever was happening. Which I looked down and I saw a bunch of like anarchist looking masked kids looking all kind of violent and thrashy. Um, then I saw also the Portland riot cops on their little docked vehicle down at the end of the block, which was kind of strange because it was like, okay, they're coming eventually, but they're not coming at the critical moment, or they're slow, they're processing, or they just want to let things unfold as they're unfolding. So even the delayed police response was kind of confusing to me, but I knew it was probably going to break down, and I thought people would get beat over the heads or some MacArthur Park style BS. So um, I'm just kind of avoiding the issue. And then basically, flash forward to October. I don't live in Portland, haven't lived in Portland, but I was down visiting family, helping family. That's why I'm there for the July thing. And October, I'm visiting friends, I do believe, a little bit. And the Yom Kippur Stampede thing happens. I follow it very closely online from a distance, and I'm freaked out about it. I'm like researching it, studying it. I'm appalled because I had tried to get ACLU to give a damn when Mayor Hills was having me brutalized at City Hall. But, my case wasn't glamorous enough or whatever. So I'm like, that's fine. But I heard through the rumor, through the grapevine, some friend was like, oh, there's a thing at ACLU today. So I'm like, oh, I'll go, thinking it might be a seminar, it might be a talk, it might be a conversation, whatever. And I get there, and I had been very busily like sending tons of data over to DOJ because I found it fascinating. Like, whoa, why are they doing this egregious police brutality 13 days before the Washington, D.C. people fight? And that's absurd. So I just like mention it straight up, kind of like to whatever her name is, Ashley Albies, who I recognize because I've seen her like a million times as she's like amicus brief lady for the USA VPDX. And I just kind of mention it casually off the cuff, like, well, is anything that's going on here okay to send to the DOJ? Or like, I'm kind of being a punk because obviously law is proprietary and secretive by nature, and I know that. So that's why I'm being a rebel by even suggesting that people should cross their wires and like communicate with each other instead of like operate in total secrecy for the next 3 years and maybe make more money because of it. I know this is a dynamic and a problem in law. So I bring it up. And then Teresa's like, there's no like limited seating. The room is really crowded. And Teresa Rifford's just kind of like, if you weren't there for October 12th brutality, I'm getting the point. It's not about the other brutality. And Laura, I think I'm there with Laura, and Laura was there for part of it. And so I'm somehow I end up sitting by Jesse Spunberg in his neck brace. And when they're doing some like, you have to go around in a circle and say, "Hi, my name is Mary Ang and I'm not a cop," or whomever you are. And it's really awkward because I'm like this whole like, I am not a cop. I've like never been a cop. I took classes with an LAPD down in Los Angeles City College one summer because I was bored. I was waiting for paralegal semester to start. But anyway, so I have to do my like, Jesse Spunberg's just done his I am not a cop routine. I'm doing mine feeling like, oh my god, this is weirder than Alcoholics Anonymous. This is ACLU. And then we get next over to Benjamin Kerensa, and he's like, I'm Benjamin Kerensa, and I don't feel safe unless Mary Ang leaves. And then it's kind of like, boom, Mary Ang must be a cop. Or the implications, and I'm kind of like, whoa, that's really lame. And I'd already like talked to Matt De Los Santos back when he's making copies in the copy room, like, hey, I don't know, am I supposed to be here? I'm a victim of this brutality, but not that brutality. I was present for the June 27th brutality, not the egregious, even worse, October 12th brutality. It looks weird that I'm smiling for brutality. I know, I'm just a happy person sometimes. But it's really sad, actually. So Matt is like, oh, no, come in, it's cool. So I'm cool with Matt De Los Santos. But then Jesse Spunberg, like when I started talking and I mentioned that I was a part of like the earlier wave of exclusions from City Hall, or like arrested and brutalized at City Hall, for me, I'm just thinking context. I'm like, I don't know the scope of this. I don't know if this is like a huge civil class action lawsuit, what kind of lawsuit it's going to be. So to me, it's just historical information, and I'm willing to be helpful if it helps anyone gain a perspective, which I really want no one ever to be hurt for going to city council ever. And it was like at that point, they were like a club, and I didn't get the cliquishness because I wasn't like in the clique. And Jesse Spunberg goes, this isn't about that. And he does it like in this really like angry, domineering, creepy way. And Laura, like when I got kicked out, Laura's like, I think stays for another minute or two, or she stays for a little while, and then she goes home because the Portland police had stolen her iPhone the week before, and her iPhone had been stolen for like 40 days, so she couldn't call me. I go to Starbucks, across, like diagonally at the corner, thinking, well, if I just sit here at the Starbucks, I can sit there and watch the door and see who comes in and out. So I can meet up back with Laura because we have a CRC meeting to go to, the Citizens Review Committee on Police Brutality. So I miss Laura, drink my coffee, find the anti-retaliation clause, which is section 129, page 44 of the USAV PDX. So I felt like, hey man, Benjamin, you're kind of crazy, but I'm doing good work. I call my favorite old lawyer friend, mentor in LA, and have a lovely chat about what a fabulous week I'm having, because we've got all this great footage already. We trapped Rosenbaum down really hard, I think. Yeah, so anyway, on the Mike Marshman strangulation issue, which having a police chief who strangles is weird. So, especially children, minors, and covers it up, and retaliates against the whistleblower, blah, 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 on and on. So at some point, I go back over the corner, I've had my Starbucks, I'm at the corner, I'm waiting for people to come out, waiting specifically for Laura, but the only people I'm seeing are like Teresa Rayford, Cam, who's Killer Cam something on Twitter, love the guy, met him finally, like, met him only once in September, so that's how I know who he is. Terra Incognita, who I know from seeing her picture in Oregon Live from the previous week's protest, but I've never met her, but I've heard of her. So these people I barely know. Basically, Benjamin suddenly comes out. I'm standing at the bus mall. He comes towards me, and he says, something like, it's something like it's not okay to inform on, or it's not okay to accuse people of something, and like, I just am gonna be like, hey man, it's cool. I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable. No big deal. It's all good. I wanted to tell him I respect him for his weird paranoia. But at this point, he's like so frothing at the mouth. He's like, I mean, obviously massive. I don't know, 400 pounds or something. And he's like salivating at the mouth, and his jaw is shaking like this. And he's like lunging at me with his whole body weight. To which, compared to him, I feel really small. So I kind of like, he's coming this way at me. I'm trying to apologize, and then I'm kind of like being like there, and then he chills out for a second, and then I try to like neutralize him somehow, and then he makes like an aggressive lunge for me. At which point, Teresa Rayford and Terra Incognita and Cam, a couple of them are sitting at the bench. I think the girls are, and then Cam, they all just like jump up and kind of like get in front of him, and they're like, "No, Benjamin, no, Benjamin," because like they know me and love me. Like they're not gonna let me get beat up by Benjamin Kerensa at the bus mall outside the ACLU, of all weird places to be beaten up. So I email Matt De Los Santos. I'm just like, keep an eye on this guy. He's kind of a live wire. I don't really know if he is who he says he is, whatever. Next time I see him, it's like the first day of the anti-Trump thing or something. I don't know. I'm at Pioneer Courthouse Square. I walk up with David Keefe Davis, who I've run into, and then he thinks I'm so cool because he worships the ground Keefe Davis walks on. Even though Keefe's girlfriend is the one who found all the dirt on him to begin with, that made him hate me to begin with. But anyway, he somehow thinks he's got the romance for Keefe, so then I'm cool. Then I'm like, what's your star sign? Okay, you're an Aries. I'm like, do you want a hug? I'm a Leo. We get along. So it's all patched up and good with me and Benjamin. Next time I see him is like a day or two later, November, and he's like all trailing some guy he thinks he's a secret agent. I just go up to him and I'm like, so who are you? Who do you work for? And he's like, I work private security for KGW or something. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So the journalists need their own security guards. That's pretty high tech and cool. Then he actually tells me about like moving computer equipment for the CIA, and it's like really interesting. And then I just go to Ben Kerensa and I'm like, yeah, he's private security for the such and such, because he's like more well dressed than your typical protester type. So that was my last interaction with Kerensa. I still don't totally trust him, and I think I saw from my blue hair footage that he was a part of launching and lurching on Strickland, and I did see the event with Strickland with my own eyes too. So I've been lurched at and lunged at by Kerensa's aggression, as well as seen the events that are leading to his future sentencing. And I'm sorry I'm too lazy to come down to Portland. I just really don't care for the place. I don't like how it's run. I don't like how they do things down there. And it's partly just sheer laziness. If I had a car, I might drive down there because I really like to go thrift store shopping at the Goodwill. Feel free to make a fool of this if you want to. And sorry it's so messy. And I'm gonna finish my lovely green things. Are these sugar snap peas?